Well, I'm just going to start by saying happy Valentine's Day because we know that's what it is. Now, not everybody celebrates Valentine's Day. And for those of us who do, can be a special day. It can be a special day of just kind of reminding ourselves about our true loves and what true love is all about. And today I'm going to be joined by a very special, very, very, very special guest. And we're going to talk a little bit about Valentine's Day, share love stories, but also talk about maybe dispelling some of the myths about Valentine's Day, about love, about marriage, not in a negative way, but just kind of talking about some of the truths that we have learned along the way. So put on the brakes, grab a cup of coffee, and join the conversation because it's time for Coffee Breaks with Steve. Well, welcome to Coffee Breaks with Steve. My name is Steve, and this is the show where we come together around our virtual coffee table each week and join the conversation to chat about interesting topics with amazing guests. If you're joining us for the first time today as part of what we call our Brew Crew, welcome. And if you've been with us before, welcome back. Yeah, we're going to talk about Valentine's Day today, and I'm looking forward to it because it's not a secret. It's not like it's a surprise guest. But my wife, Caryl, is going to be with us. The last time she's been on the show a few times. But the last time that we were here and talked about Valentine's Day, I was looking in our records, in our archive, was back in 2021 when the show actually fell on the day before Valentine's Day. So it's been 5 years ago that Caryl joined me on here. We talked about Valentine's Day, I think, told our story. We're going to share a little bit of that story again today. So I just want to look and see. Hey, Rick, good to see you here. And if you are joining us, do make sure that you say hello in the chat. Say hi if you want to. And when we get into our conversation, we want to hear from you as well. So please be part of that. I will say today, we trying to do some adjustments on the YouTube side because normally YouTube takes place both in a horizontal, what you're seeing here, if you're joining us on Facebook, YouTube will show this display, but it also provides us with a vertical display that's good to watch on cell phones. And because of the way we're going to be framing it up today, as we were checking our positioning on the cameras, that vertical was just going to fall apart completely. And so we tried to take the vertical off, and it looks like it may have restricted the entire live stream on YouTube. And so my apologies for that. If you attempted or you do attempt to go over and watch this, we're going to try to go in later and add it and do some editing, hopefully, so we can make it available for the vertical format as well. But, if you're with someone or around someone who may have tried to get on the YouTube side, it may not be working. And again, we apologize for that. Hey, I do want to get to the sweet and savory today and share a little bit of what's going on. And the first one that I want to share, the other thing I want to do is make sure our comments are visible here. And once again, apologies if you've made an effort to go in on YouTube. Hopefully you figured out that wasn't working and you've come over here to Facebook if it is not working. But I want to share a little bit about I don't know what I want to share a little bit about, apparently. Hang on. Apparently, I just need more coffee. I want to talk a little bit about a topic, ADHD. We're aware of it. We've had episodes on here before about neurodivergence, about synesthesia, about other things. But I wanted to talk about a recent study, and it's kind of based on this concept. What if ADHD isn't actually a deficit of attention, but is actually an abundance of curiosity? Think about that for a minute. A new study out of King's College in London is reframing ADHD as something called hypercuriosity. And it's an intensified impulsive desire to explore and understand the world. A researcher by the name of Anne-Laurie Lacuna knows this personally As a teen, she was kicked out of school for what she calls creative mischief. Today, she's a scientist and only recently discovered she has ADHD herself. Now she's studying university students with ADHD using interviews, brainwave measurements, and eye tracking technology to better understand how their minds move and explore. Her research is so far backed by over 130,000 pounds in funding, and her goal is simple but powerful: rethink how we teach. Traditional education rewards students based on sustained focus on predetermined tasks. But what if some students aren't distracted? They're actually curious. What if instead of suppressing that curiosity, we learn to harness it? Just a little reminder that we like to talk about here, that sometimes what we label as a weakness or a deficit may actually be a strength, just waiting for the right environment. So again, cool to learn about that. It'll be interesting to follow how her study goes. We have family members with ADHD. In fact, we've determined that most of our family, including me, has some form of ADHD. And, I think that I probably, hang on, I have to clear my throat. I agree. The study does sound absolutely brilliant. It's going to be interesting to see. But I think that I also suffered from, enjoyed, still do, some hyper curiosity. So wouldn't it be great if instead of calling it attention deficit and hyperactivity disorder, we changed the name to hyper curiosity, just as sort of another sort of synesthesia type of thing. So I do think that's pretty cool. Hey, I want to talk about a few birthdays this week. We have several this week that we want to recognize. And so wishing a happy birthday to Heather Garlick. This week's birthday is tomorrow, February 15th. So happy birthday, Heather. Laura Plew. I love this picture. I think this may be something that she played around with a little bit of AI to do, although Lori is that beautiful. But Laura Plew is celebrating a birthday on February 16th. Her twin sister, Lisa Woolley, is celebrating on the same day, ironically. Being twins, what a feature that they would both celebrate their birthdays on the same day. But Lori and Lisa both celebrating on February 16th. Happy birthday to the two of you. Rosemary Harden has been a guest on this show before and is celebrating a birthday on February 19th. So happy birthday, Rosemary. And Dee Dee Kiso, dear friend of mine and a friend of this show, celebrating a birthday on February 20th. So we also wish Dee Dee a very happy birthday. Do you have a special day this week that we didn't have on our calendar or somehow I missed and overlooked? Could be a birthday, it could be an anniversary, it could be a bar mitzvah, it could be a christening, it could be whatever you think is important, or maybe someone very near and dear to you that you want to make sure that we acknowledge and celebrate. The special day this week, you can put that in the chat right now. And if you got one coming up, perhaps later in the month of February or sometime later in this year, you can send us an email. You see it there on the screen, cbwsteve@comcast.net. We will get that information. We will learn that you have a special day. We will get it on our calendar, and we can acknowledge and celebrate that with you when the right time comes. All right, listen, I want to get to our topic and introduce our guest, and she is very special. She is probably, no, I'm not going to say probably, she is the most special person in my life, and it's always fun when she gets to join the show. It's happened a few times. I said 5 years ago, the last time that we had this kind of a conversation about Valentine's Day, and I think today's is going to be both interesting and fun. We hope that you'll participate. But Caryl is here, so I'm going to scoot over and give her some room to join the conversation. Hi, sweetie.
Hi.
Hi.
Happy Valentine's
Happy
Day.
Valentine's Day. It's great to have you on the show again. And we are going to be talking about some things that I think are kind of fun to dwell on a little bit. And I think, first of all, the first thing is just sharing a little bit about our story. We've shared it before. A lot of people on here may know it. We shared it, I think, 5 years ago. But just what do you recall about our meeting and kind of how we first started? I don't know if we'd say being attracted to each other or just starting to interact with each other.
Well, I was home for the summer, going to college. I was just home for the summer. So I had no interest in dating at all. I had my whole life planned out. But I did need a summer job. So I got a job at an insurance company in Portland by Lloyd Center. And I was the receptionist. And I started the same week, 3 weeks apart.
I think you started the week before I did.
So, so I met this young man who was the mail and supply clerk, and he was new as well. And he'd have to pass my desk every day to pick up phone messages. In the old days, you wrote down the messages, and he had to come by my desk, pick them up, and deliver them. Also mail. He would, people would set things in my inbox, and he would pick them up and go deliver them.
Or the mail itself. Yeah, when the mailman arrived. Right,
yeah. So I sorted the mail, blah, blah, blah. Because we were both new, he was at my desk all the time. We struck up a friendship, and that really is how I viewed it.
Yeah.
But I thought he was pretty cute, except for the polyester pants he wore. I thought
a little bit tight.
The look of the day. So we were moving out of the polyester pants phase, and he wasn't quite there yet.
I had to get a couple of paychecks before I could buy any new clothes. And I remember that first week, just sort of trying to get the lay of the land in a new office, a new job. And at the end of that week, one of my dear friends came in to go to lunch with me. And of course, he was always one of his goals throughout our friendship, going back to high school, was always try to set me up. And he said, well, are there any cute girls in the office? And I said, a few. And he said, what about that reception? Because he had come in front door, had met you, or had encountered you, and then asked for me, and you paged me or whatever. But he said, well, what about that receptionist? She looked pretty cute. And this was my initial reaction, because part of it was you presented yourself you were gorgeous, but you could be very imposing, because you were already 5'9" and you wore 4-inch heels or something like that. Your goal was to intimidate guys who may come on to you.
Correct. And it worked.
And you had blonde hair. And I think as much as anything else, I was just trying to keep him from pushing the issue. But he said, what about that receptionist? And I said, yeah, she's cute, but I haven't figured out yet if she's a snob or a dumb blonde. And I had no inkling, no reason to think that either was true. Maybe the snob side more, only because you presented a very imposing persona to try to keep guys from viewing you as vulnerable or whatever. But we did develop over the next few weeks, even just sort of a friendship, if you will. It was still very basic at that point. It was an office. The other thing that was true about that office was that there were a bunch of nosy women. It was very gossipy.
Very.
And we'd already seen that with another couple who both worked together in the office, who had ended up getting married. And they even talked about the fact that they had to kind of overcome, they would just sort of share in passing. Yeah, it was tough dating because everybody was always trying to be 2 steps ahead of us, and rumors about this and that and the other thing. And so when I asked you out, well, let's go back to the first asking out. And that's my part of the story briefly. And I'm going to let you step back in about the first date. But I finally decided I was going to ask you out. No, we started working at this office toward the end of June. And I think by early September, we had both been asked by another person in the office if we would consider, they were putting together a bowling team to be part of a league. Would we be on the bowling team? And we both agreed to do it. And so we were seeing each other outside the office on bowling nights, but that was about it. And now it's coming up on mid-September, probably still around that early September point. So we've only been working together for a couple of months. And I decided I was going to ask you out. And I was going to be going with my sister, Carla, and her husband to see a chorus line. Was coming to town on the national tour. And we had tickets, and I had a ticket for a +1 to go with me. And because it was such a gossipy office, I was kind of stalling, waiting around your desk while other people were coming and going, because I didn't want to ask you in front of anyone. I wanted it to be secret. I may even have written it down and was going to hand it to you. But again, passing notes could even look suspicious. And while we were there was a lady in the office who was one of our sales reps by the name of Jill. And she was always coming to you with ideas about setting you up, right? And I overheard her say, hey, I got this guy that I think would be great. And she was trying to push him on. You said, well, how old is he? And what, I can't remember, was he a couple of years younger or something like that? And, and you said, well, that's the problem. They're either too young or too short. Now, remember, I'm 5'8", you're 5'9", and you were walking around in 4-inch heels. So you were 6'1" in the office. So I'm thinking too short. And I kind of gathered up my stuff and my mail and supply cart and pushed myself away. I thought, okay, that's not going to work. And I ended up asking a friend, a friend who was a
I
young
blew
lady.
that one. I could have gone to the chorus line for free.
But that
Fine.
same weekend, it turned out that, again, JD had worked at a radio station and had 4 tickets to go see the Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey Circus that was coming to town on the same weekend as a chorus line. I think chorus line tickets we had were Saturday night, and the circus was in town on Friday or something like that. And thought, well, try again. This is a little less imposing. Going to the circus, that doesn't even sound like a date necessarily. And so I approached you about doing that, and you were like, yeah, sure. And at that point, is it fair to say, you were interested in me only as a friend. So yeah. Why not go to the circus?
No threat.
And so I remember
which is also an appropriate venue for our entire relationship.
Yeah, it says a lot when you say that our first date was to the circus. It really it says a lot, doesn't it? But we ended up we picked you up. Remember, you gave me the address, and you were living with your mom in her mobile home park in the Gresham Troutdale area. And we got there, and your maiden name is McCormick. But your mom had been remarried. I didn't know that. And the name on the outside, like on the mailbox or outside the mobile home, said Munden. And we pulled up, and I was in the back seat, and I remember looking, and I think JD or Carla said, is this the right address? I said, I hope so. And the first thought that went through my mind was, as you were it was like, yeah, okay, this guy asked me out. It's kind of like giving somebody a fake phone number. It's like, gave a fake address. So thought, well, got to find out. So I went up to the door, knocked on the door, and I think your mom was right inside the door. She had the door open and just the screen door closed. And your mom, where you are 5'9", your mom was kind of a shortly sort of hunchback little lady. And she came to the door and she said, hello. And I said, I'm here to pick up Caryl. Oh yeah, come on in. I'm her mom, obviously. And I thought, obviously, I don't know. But, you came out, and it was sort of you were viewing it as you didn't have to worry about making an impression on me. Do you have any memories of that date at all?
I remember a lot of it.
We went to dinner first.
We went to Denny's.
It was the Lions restaurant, which was near the Coliseum.
Okay.
But it was sort of a Denny's or...
Was it Denny's afterwards?
It was a different date.
Different date. Okay, different date. Anyway.
They run together after 46 years.
Yeah, a lot of things run together at my age. And we went to dinner, and I wasn't really worried about impressing you. So I ordered... Well,
I was used to taking girls on dates that would kind of be like, they didn't want to come across as being gluttons, or I don't know what they didn't want to come across as. It was always kind of silly. They'd be like, I'll just have a salad and a Diet Cola. It's like...
Which is what Carla ordered, by the way.
I think
she was already married to JD.
And ordered a salad and a Diet
his sister.
Do you remember what you ordered?
I ordered a French dip and French fries, and I think a Diet Coke. I don't remember, but yeah.
Yeah. And it was like, yeah.
Free meal.
And you had been in college, you had been studying communications and wanted to go into like radio communications. JD was in radio. So you, as my date, spent the entire dinner talking to JD about
JD
radio.
and I and Carlin and Stephen,
Talked
brother,
about-
sister.
Talked about what we were going to see at the circus, probably. I don't know.
I don't know how we ever ended up getting together. It was,
and then we got to the Coliseum. We were watching, and the other thing I remember is that in between the acts, you would just, again, you weren't talking to impress me. You would talk. Maybe I would ask you a question, but you would just go, and by the time you would say, "So what about you?" and I'd start to answer, the lights would go down. The next act was in the center ring, and so I don't know that I really talked that much, which is unusual.
Yeah.
Really unusual for me.
Yeah.
But that was our first date. And the other thing I remember about that, again, because you didn't even want me to think that it was really a date. We got back to your house. I walked you to the door. You opened the screen, unlocked the front door. We may have been unlocked. Walked in and shut the screen behind you and then turned and said, "Well, good night. This was fun. Good night." It's like, okay, I get it. But yeah, I mean, it took a little while before our relationship really began. I mean, it felt like it took a little while, but again, we started working together the end of June. We went on our first date to the circus mid-September, and we were married the following July. And so even by Thanksgiving of that year, I think was when I met your brothers, and that's an entirely different
My
story.
brothers actually, they did fulfill their roles
as the older brother, and the younger brother.
And,
they all tried to see if
really,
they could scare me away.
Yeah.
But I think by then, I mean, I was coming over as your serious boyfriend. I don't remember if we had already by that point talked about. I had talked about it before you did, which is again another story we probably don't have time to go entirely into, but that one of the evenings relatively early on in our relationship, when you had invited me over and cooked dinner for me for the first time. And afterwards we were sitting on the couch in your living room with the lights all down, the fire going, and your mom snoring in the easy chair across from us.
My chaperone.
Yeah. And somewhere in that conversation, I blurted out that I thought we were going to get married. And I didn't know I was going to say that until I heard the words come out of my mouth. I'm sure I thought it. But you were kind of like, how well, let's wait and see. And there was a lot.
It's like, well, that's a new line. I haven't heard that one before.
That's an interesting pickup line. That might be, pushing a little bit. But we were indeed, I mean, we were officially, I think I gave you an engagement ring in February, somewhere around there. And we got married in July. So it was a pretty rapid process, all things considered. I mean, I think about the fact that we talk about it taking time to develop the relationship. It wasn't that much time.
Yeah, and I was supposed to be going back to college, but my paperwork wasn't there fast enough and I couldn't get in. So that just laid the groundwork for developing this relationship over time that I was not expecting. So took a while to get back to college.
Yeah, and by the way, Carissa, to your comment about Dale and Randy doing their darndest, Alan was in on that too.
Yes, he was.
And he was no less focused on trying to intimidate me than Dale and Randy were at the time. So yeah, it was quite the deal. So I want to talk about a few things. We're not going to have a ton of time to talk about this, but one of the things that we had promoted with this was that we were going to go beyond some of the basic stories and talk about a few things that maybe dispel some of the myths. And the first one is, I'm curious to know what surprised you most about love and being in love over time. And I mean, over time being maybe even between the time we met and the time we got married, but certainly after we got married in those first few years, what surprised you most about love?
I think there was a real understanding after I got married, the difference between Twitter-pated, that's what I like to call it, and
that puppy love,
that infatuation, and really living life together. And the work that we did intentionally and we had some really good marriage mentors as well.
I think that's a huge factor.
It was huge for us because we both came from divorced families. So we really didn't have a good example of what a solid marriage relationship was. And we intentionally really worked on it. And that's something I'd never seen before and has served us so well over time. Those early years really helping us to identify what our strengths, where we filled each other in, how we were going to communicate and not, what were our goals, and we were so on the same page, which I think is something that a lot of couples don't really think about ahead of time. Do you have a lot in common? Do you enjoy being together more? Steve and I would, then, would rather be with each other than with anyone else. And we just had so much in common, and we could talk about anything without arguing or fighting because we intentionally sat down and chose to discuss those things, understanding it could be hard, but we loved each other enough to work it through. So those are some of the things. And then just love over time. At this side of our marriage, I really understand what love is. It's a commitment, and it's work.
Yeah. By the way, I want, Kathy made a comment in there, which I'm not surprised. I was actually, Kathy, kind of hoping you would respond in some fashion. She said, rapid, I'll show you rapid. So Kathy, put in the comments, because if I remember correctly, it was like a Valentine's weekend. It was around this time of the year when you and Rod met. So talk about in the comments, if you would be willing, when you met, when you got engaged, and when you got married in relation to each other, talking about rapid. My sister, Kathy. In the meantime, I would say one of the things that surprised me most about love, I think I came into it with maybe a little more, I don't even know if I would call it idealism, but optimism about what marriage should be. Again, coming from a divorced family where there was dysfunction and there were a variety of issues, I still had this idea that I would get married and it would be blissful. And I saw, I think in spite of, or maybe because of some of the things that had gone on in my family growing up, I kind of wanted to push that aside and still look at the fairy tale to some degree. I don't think it was grotesquely unrealistic, but who has a realistic view of what love and marriage are really going to be until you're in it, right? You don't really. And I think one of the things that we'll talk a little bit more about what we learned along the way and unlearned. But I think that one of the things that I had to figure out that surprised me was that love was not a 50-50 concept. That love, you don't meet halfway on things, that it overlaps. It's really both individuals giving 100%, but also looking to get it. You have to still fulfill yourself along the way. You don't lose your identity. And it's something that's hard to describe because the idea of retaining who you are and yet growing together and the oneness that comes from a relationship is such an unusual concept that I don't think you can. I don't know that it wasn't like a shocking moment of surprise, but as I look back over it, it's like I'm amazed that I went from where I started out being immature, being naive about what real love was really about. I had actually been fortunate that I'd had some healthy girlfriend relationships. I didn't have a lot of relationships, prior to, but in high school and just beyond, I had a few that for the most part, most of them were healthy and even ended in a healthy way. And so I think I came away thinking that love could be a positive thing. And I'm curious, again, we're putting these things out there. Kathy shared this.
That's amazing. Kathy and Rod, that's just blows my mind.
And that's what I was going to ask you. I thought this was 50. It's I'm pretty sure, but I wanted to check. So, well, congratulations on right now, this weekend, celebrating your 50 years of meeting each other. And in May, we will definitely want to celebrate along with you that huge milestone. That is amazing. We do want to hear from all of you, sort of your thoughts as well about if you are or have been in a long-term couples relationship, marriage, or some partnership, what surprised you most about love over time? Put your own thoughts, similar to what we've talked about here. The next one is, was there anything that you unlearned about love that you thought you knew that you had to unlearn?
Yeah, and I don't know that it's unlearn love specifically, but by the time my dating relationship was not as positive as Steve's, and so I had real trust issues, and it took a long time for me to realize that I trusted my husband, which was something new to me. The only other person I trusted in my life was my older brother, Alan. And so that was amazing to me that I finally, he restored my trust, allowed me to trust again. So,
Yeah. Um, it's also interesting. I know Rick made a comment here, but I think that there are probably different perspectives for people who have been married more than once, because you're going to have uh, been surprised by certain things, probably, and they may be different. And I'm curious to hear from some of you who have been married more than once. Did your perspectives on some of these things change over time because of those relationships, and the way that different relationships and marriages and other long-term relationships unfolded? And again, what we're sharing is our experience and our perspectives. I do want to hear from other people because they're not all going to be the same. I was trying to think about this. I've had more time. I was putting these questions together 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I didn't want to over rehearse them in my mind, but I was thinking about some of the things that I unlearned. And one of the things that I unlearned was that I did not have to even though I came in with a lot of idealism, I also came in with a lot of masking. I had a lot of sort of overriding personality things that I did that I had used in the past that were sort of my being funny to cover things up, being presenting characters and other personas to kind of cover up insecurity. And I had to unlearn those masks to some degree in order to be vulnerable, to be the person that you needed to be married to, and not in each situation where I felt a little bit out of place or awkward, whether it was in other settings or just with you even, that I didn't have to put on a mask or a persona. And I was at the point where it was so hardwired into me to do that sometimes I wasn't even conscious that I was doing that. And I had to unlearn masking. We all still do that in one degree or another. It's sort of part of human nature and personalities. In different settings, we show different sides of ourselves. But I had to learn that it was okay. You had one set of trust issues. Mine was about trusting myself, I think. I had a lot of personal insecurity, and I had to unlearn some of those insecurities in order to be completely vulnerable and open with you. I'm just reading some of the comments here. Yeah, it's interesting to see. Thank you for those of you who are sharing, and some of you are sharing from your own place of vulnerability, talking about some past relationships, and I appreciate that. This one I think is an interesting question to address, and that is, what do you think? And this for all of you out there, in terms of Kathy, I think Kathy and Rod being married 50 years, you can speak to this, but those of you who've been married for 20 years, for 10 years, for 5 years, we all deal with the unglamorous seasons, and they can be the ones that truly challenge our marriage, or they can be just times when we're going through change. And we've had those. What do you think kept us together during unglamorous seasons?
well, for us, like I said, we had very good young married mentors, and
Through our church.
and we had a really strong young marrieds class. So we had a good network of other couples going through what we were going through, or learning how to be married. And a lot of it came down to learning early on how we were going to intentionally communicate with one another. And I think that was a big part of building that foundation. So when the storms came, we could talk about it. and we could let each other be ourselves, which was one thing Steve has always been really good. He's allowed me to be who I am without feeling guilty or, I'm not intimidating. I'm not whatever. He's just been a strong rock for me. And I think it's the communication that has really helped us.
Yeah, I think so, because, certainly there have been times that we I don't know. We do not in the almost. Yeah, I love that one, Tracy. That is excellent advice. I think about the fact that in now coming up this July, it'll be 46 years that we've been married, and we have disagreed. We've gotten ticked at each other. We've gotten frustrated with each other. We do not have fights. We do not have yelling matches. We do not have, arguments where we're both looking to be the winner. And we learned a lot about some elements of conflict, dealing with conflict, that there are different areas where you end up. And again, it's a in-depth for another time, but that people, when they're dealing with conflict in any relationship, can tend to either there's kind of like, are you dealing with your own needs and also the health of the relationship? And the lowest point in that graph is to withdraw. I'm not even going to deal with it. And you can withdraw physically, which we know happens in relationships. When conflict reaches the point where it's no longer tenable to be there, it can happen for a lot of reasons. Withdrawal can happen. It can also happen when people feel like it's just the conflict is overwhelming. It can be an emotional withdrawal. Yielding is another negative one, where I have a high regard for the relationship, but a low regard for my own needs. So I'm just going to give in all the time. Sure, whatever you want. And there are times that can be appropriate, or even withdrawing temporarily in the midst of an argument. Say, you know what, we need some space. Let's get back together. We've even done that with our kids at times. The middle ground on that, which people often head for, is compromise. And that's, again, sort of that giving 50-50. And that's okay. Compromising, again, is okay as a stopgap, or it's okay when you're dealing with things like, well, do you want to watch a rom-com or an action film tonight? Oh, okay, I'll tell you what, let's compromise. Let's watch a rom-com tonight and we'll watch an action film tomorrow. Okay, that's compromise. You don't build relationships on that. Another very negative one is when someone feels like they have a high regard for their own needs, but not for the relationship. It's I've got to win. And the ultimate goal is resolution, which means you have to take the time to understand the other person. You have to take the time to recognize your own biases, your own filters, your own triggers, not to do away with them, because you still need to be able to express and fulfill your needs. But it's within light of the health of each individual and the relationship. And again,
not easy.
It does take work. And I think that's one of the things that we look back, we say sometimes we wish that we had let our kids, we also tried to make sure if we were dealing with conflict, we didn't want it to be a public thing. And for the most part, we also didn't want it to be something where our kids saw us disagreeing. I mean, there were times that they saw us have conversations about, well, I don't know about that. But if we were really dealing with a conflict situation, we would normally try to take it somewhere where we could work it out. And one of the things I think that we sometimes felt that we missed with our kids was that they didn't always see that marriage took a lot of work. I think, and Carissa, you are on here today. You can speak to this, but that, our kids grew up thinking that everything was just flowed easily in our marriage. They may have been aware that we had to work through some things, but they didn't see the times of conflict. The other unglamorous times were times when we're dealing with family trauma in the extended family, where there was death or there were other issues that took place, and dealing with depression, dealing with conflicts beyond our own marital relationship, but that we're entering in because of other people. Even sometimes just dealing with, raising 3 kids. I love you, Carissa. I love all of our kids. I did then, and I still do. But it was the idea that those were times that were not always glamorous. There were times that we had to work through things for them and with them and about them. And, what keeps you together during those unglamorous seasons? I did like some of the comments that were here. Is that you recognize it's going to take work. You should never be surprised by the idea that issues in life they shouldn't catch you off guard in a way. I mean, it's not that you sit there going, "Oh, I'm waiting for the next shoe to drop," but that you should be working on things during the easy times as well, so that you don't. It's that same thing of never taking anything for granted. That in jobs, in your personal life, etc. There's always the idea that you've got to continue working on. Is there anything? Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I don't know. Love is such a odd word. People just throw it around, and I know that there's the phrase "love is a choice," but I do think you choose to invest in a relationship or not. And that's where I think real growth and trust for me is that we've intentionally worked.
It's an investment.
And you
continue to be aware
fortunately ours has been a healthy one. Some are not, and I understand the need to, you can't be in an unsafe situation.
Right.
But life happens, and I call it the McDonald's syndrome, where we just want everything to work just like that. I want to drive up to my window, get what I want, and drive off. And if you can't provide that for me, this isn't worth it. That's, you're never going to really experience. I never knew this kind of love existed. So it's been a wonderful journey, and I truly recognize that I've been blessed. And it takes two.
Yeah.
Both people have to want it. And I'm very grateful that Steve wanted it, and I'm glad that I wanted it, and he helped me. We work together, so we're partners.
And I love this. By the way, hi, Christy. I'm glad you're here. It's good to see you here. Christy, another dear friend going back many. Okay, well, I'm not going to say many years, Christy. A few years when we went to high school together, and we've kept in touch over the years. And I know this about Christy and her husband, Steve, that and I agree with that too. I think that's another thing that keeps people together during those unglamorous times is that you have to be. You look at. I mean, you can have other friends in different settings. You got best friends who are your best girlfriends. But you and I are best friends. Mm-hmm. And that's part of it too, I think, is a huge thing. Listen, we're very, very short on time, and I want to finish up and finish up this Valentine's episode real quick by telling everyone what's going to be coming up in the next few weeks. We got some things that are in the works and that we're planning for. Next week, we're going to be talking about stress-proofing your life with an expert in this field, author and speaker by the name of Eliz Green's going to be with us. She has a fascinating story in and of herself, where she's come from and where it's led her. And then the week after that, we're going to be talking to a young lady by the name of Alexa Tomkowiak, who is currently in grad school, getting her master's degree in creative writing, which just seems like, what do you do with that? So we're going to talk about some of the challenges of just trying to get through and into and through grad school, and what she looks at doing with this creativity that she has in her life. And then going out to March 7th, we're going to be talking to a couple of people from a very special theater in the Washington County area of Oregon called the Experience Theater Project. They focus specifically on not only breaking the fourth wall with theater, but immersive audience experiences. We're going to be speaking to their artistic director, Elisa Stewart, and possibly one of their other board members as well, who has helped put this together. We want to know what you want to discuss on Coffee Breaks with Steve. What are the topics that you would like to see us talk about? Who are the guests you would like to see? Reach out to us with your ideas and potentially introductions. If you know somebody you think should be a guest on the show, at cbwsteve@comcast.net. We would love to have them here. And then remember, even though we had some technical issues on the YouTube side today, we do have a YouTube channel. All of our episodes, maybe with the exception of this one going live, but we'll get it on there, are on YouTube. And that's one of the areas we can reach out to an audience beyond our little brew crew here. So if you are not already subscribed to our YouTube channel, we would invite and encourage you to go there, become a subscriber. watch and like some of the past videos you may not have been able to see, and share that site with others who may benefit and want to learn about some of the topics and meet some of our guests, because we think that is one of the cool ways that we can keep people engaged and reach a broader audience. Caryl, happy Valentine's Day. I love you.
I love you too.
And thank you so much for being here to share your story along with me with some of these people.
Thanks for marrying me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. This is I think probably our 46th Valentine's Day together, because I think we first celebrated the February before we got married. But anyway, for all of you out there, if you are people who celebrate Valentine's Day with a significant other in your life, have a great Valentine's Day. I also want to mention it's Oregon's birthday today.
Oh, that's
important. Always have to mention that. And if you are not a person who celebrates Valentine's Day, maybe because you're not in a relationship and you kind of think there's too much hype and you're going to be doing other things today, enjoy your day, enjoy your weekend, watch some more Olympics if that's what you want to do. For all of us, whether it is continuing to show your love to your favorite person or people in your life, or whatever it might be that you can do, we all have ways of touching people and following our passions to know that we are doing things that truly make an impact. So please find a way to make a difference in your world this week. God bless you. Have a great week. We'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody.
On Coffee Breaks with Steve.